Okay, so we are in Colombia, and it's called the Sierra Nevada, the Santa Marta mountain range. And this particular land is owned by these three lovely people here. Can you tell us where we are and what your name is?
Yep, so we are at the La Ponderosa hostel. My name's Colette.
My name is Stefan.
My name's Sam.
Fantastic, nice to meet you guys. Could you tell us a little bit about your background? Where are you from?
We are all from England. I'm half Finnish as well. We're from Nottingham, and Colette, you are
I'm
from
Somerset, southwest of England.
Okay, fantastic. And obviously you're now living in Colombia. What were you doing a couple of years back?
So about 3 years ago, I was working for a IT company as an IT consultant, big corporation, IBM. Living and working in London is very much the corporate lifestyle.
Yeah, I too was living the corporate dream in London. So I was working for a company called Skanska, a construction development company, international. And yeah, I was an environmental advisor on various projects in commercial development, office blocks primarily in the City of London. So yeah, a little bit different.
Yeah, and I'd lived in London as well. I was a trainee accountant at a big professional services company called EY. About this time 3 years ago, I'd just finished my final case study exam. So I was exam qualified, but I still had another year left of on-the-job training before I became a qualified accountant.
Okay, so basically all three of you were very much corporate careers, 3 years ago, and yet today we find you living in Colombia. What changed in your life? What motivated you to come here and do such a drastic change?
I think for me, the seed was sown about 5 or 6 years ago. Right, this is Frank as well. Yeah, about 5 or 6 years ago, when we were travelling around South America. In particular, Colombia was a real draw for me. Sort of fell in love with the country. It's got it all really. Beaches, mountain ranges. It's got good dogs as well. It's yeah, from a geological point of view, everything, and it's got adventure, exploration. A lot of the country is relatively untouched, and that's a real sort of draw for me. So that was always in the back of my head when starting life in London and sort of corporate life. And I think probably about 4 years ago, really thought I don't want to live in an office my whole life. I want to be outdoors in the nature.
Going in.
So why am I here? I think, so for me, it was probably about just over 3 years ago that I became particularly disenfranchised with my job and the office life. It was around August, about 2017. I remember a specific time when I was in the office. It was about 8:30, 9 in the evening, and loads of my friends were out, together, and I couldn't leave because I was so busy at work. And so that's when I sort of realised that it wasn't really for me. And I think from my time in London, I really realised I don't really deal well with pressure and stress from above, but actually I react better to pressure and stress from within, from myself. So therefore I thought it would be a good idea to set up something, I say by myself, but something where it's our project. And I also really like the idea of sort of waking up every day, and my primary sort of concern is the enjoyment and happiness of other people, because rather than sort of the fulfilling the needs of managers and the corporate world.
Yeah, for me, I guess it was towards the end I just found the London lifestyle very kind of repetitive. I found, although I was in a good job, like well looked after with good opportunities ahead, I just never really fully clicked with that with the corporate working environment. And yeah, I found myself kind of wishing for the weekends and just having great weekends with all my closest friends are there and it's brilliant fun, but it's just kind of the same every week. You're anxious and tense during the week, and then having great fun at the weekends. And I just wanted to break the cycle, had a calling to just come and live in nature, and live a bit more simply. Yeah.
So sort of quality of life in London wasn't fitting to what you consider a good quality of life. So you moved over to South America to start again and form a new kind of more relaxed life in tune with nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say also job satisfaction. There really wasn't a lot for me in particular in the IT industry, so I think that was a big part of it. I don't want to say it's been too relaxing so far. Being on a hostel is not all fun and games, right? It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
So it's what you've been here 7 months more or less.
Yeah.
And has it all been easy? Has there been problems that you've had to overcome? And how have you kind of found techniques or ways that you found to overcome problems?
Yeah, it certainly hasn't been plain sailing. I mean, from day one really, challenges from learning the language, still getting there, to the sort of navigating through the bureaucracy in Colombia of opening a business and getting your visas sorted, buying land. I mean, all of that's tough, and I think especially moving here to such a remote location, there's been some real challenges from, I guess, from a construction point of view, just building here, and B, from building sustainably. I think what we've learned very quickly is that the most sustainable way to build here is use a lot of the resources that are around us. So using a lot of clay, we've been in the process of making bricks. I think we've made about over 3,000 at the moment. That's using clay, sand from the beach, gravel from the beach. So not that we've used it, but there's some really good red clay at the top of that hill over there. We've been looking at trying to use fallen trees, or say only cutting a select few trees that aren't going to have any sort of negative impact on the environment. Anything that we have taken up the road, so we live on the other side of a river, we have to cross the river, we've used local mules to help bring stuff over. And I think with any construction project, nothing's perfect, so we've tried to use as little cement as possible. But where we have used cement, we've constantly, from being here, been planting trees, and we're trying to offset some of the negative parts of construction with planting trees, etc.
So for me, I'd say my biggest hurdle was actually leaving the UK. So yeah, about a year up to leaving, I was involved with Extinction Rebellion, the environmental activist group, and yeah, it suddenly kind of hit me about 6 months before leaving. I was just hit with this feeling of guilt that I was running away from the reality of climate change, and that I was avoiding the problem to go live my idyllic life in jungle paradise. But yeah, as soon as I got here, I did a permaculture design course with yourself, Russ, and that really kind of opened my eyes to a really positive solution that I couldn't be better placed for here. And so we started working with a reforestation foundation as well, and have since already planted 500 trees, with another 500 left in the nursery for next year. And so, yeah, it's been very good therapy.
So I think for me, the biggest challenge was certainly people management, particularly when we moved to the land. I think that's probably a combination of the fact that we've never really had our own business, so we didn't really have much experience in that, and also maybe a bit of sort of imposter syndrome. Like for me, it certainly made me feel a little bit uncomfortable telling Colombians what to do, in their own country. And I think we were certainly chucked in at the deep end, because as soon as we moved to the land, the quarantine started pretty much instantly. And so we were stuck with this challenge of obviously wanting to make progress with the hostel and the construction, and then also, but the most important thing was keep the health and safety of everyone that was here. And so we actually invited the families of two of the workers to come and live with us for a bit. And so we were basically living all together as under a strict quarantine. So that's how we sort of overcome that one. And then also just in terms of general management here, there's obviously a language barrier. I think for me, and for these guys as well, a lot of construction chat that we're talking about, I don't even know these words and this language in English either. So that's something that well, very evident at the start, and sort of we're getting better, but it's still very much there, I think.
Fantastic. So, okay, you're here today. You've just said you planted 500 trees. Wow, that's awesome. And you've got another 500 to plant next year. So you're doing some regenerative work on the land. You said you've been using a lot of the resources that you find on the land itself rather than having to transport things. And one of the restrictions was that the distance you are from, say, the main road. As you're going forward, take a step forward 5 years. Where do you see yourself, and what sort of life will you be leading?
Okay, right. In 5 years' time, obviously, we want to be a successful hostel. The big thing that we want to do is have a lot of fun, offer fun, but in a sort of sustainable way. So I'd love to one day get a brewery up and running, make our own beer, serve our beer, something like a mini golf course, a lot of different activities. So we obviously want to have a positive impact as well in our natural surroundings. We'd like to work with our neighbours, the local community, and I think through bringing tourists and eco-tourism to the area, we want to use that as a sort of way that we can work closely with people. We've already had meetings with the president of the local community and certain farmers, and a lot of people are keen to bring this tourism to the area. And I think one of the big things is looking at farming methods. Obviously we're following permaculture principles, we don't know everything. Obviously we're trial and erroring at the moment, and I think what we want to try and do is help use some regenerative methods with local farmers, because a lot of the techniques, it's not necessarily their fault, but damages the land, and I think we can help work with them, and when I work with reforestation foundations and these two together, I think we can have a positive impact.
Yeah, I think like a big aspect is creating like a space, like a kind of educational hub as well, as a place where people can come and enjoy themselves. So I'd love to be in a position where we're learning, from people arriving here, hosting workshops, and it's a broad range of things. It can be bioconstruction, cacao, permaculture, reforestation, all sorts of things.
So 5 years from now, I hope that we're just as busy as we are now, because to me this isn't just a 5-year project, this is like 10, 15, 20, it's a much bigger project than that. And for me personally, I really want this hostel to have a reputation of fun. I never want anyone to be bored here, and we've already got loads of ideas for activities that we want around the land. So for me personally, I really want a slide from the bar down to the beach. I think there's a perfect spot for that, and also something that sort of links us three together is I love music festivals, and so that was our dream sort of before even finding the land, was that we wanted a space to be able to do a festival in the future. And along with that, I think along with the success of the hostel, we really want to sort of bring the local community through with us, whether that be through employing people at the hostel from the local community for various jobs, or whether it be through sort of a foundation that we want to create in the future to help with local community projects, such as to help with schooling, or to improve the local football pitch. So that's what I think.
Yeah, I think in general the area's got a lot to offer. There's a lot of neighbours with beautiful fincas, and it can be it's a real opportunity to send people there to experience the flavour of the life of a campesino. We've learned a lot from them already, and it has a lot to offer. They have a lot to offer.
So you've got a lot of projects, you want to work with the community, you want to build sustainable things. How would you, music festivals, maybe you think in the jungle, how would you make that a sustainable regenerative project?
Yeah, so step back, I think something we all have in common is music, and in the past we've gone to festivals. That is something we'd like to do, sort of arts and music festival here. I think a lot of festivals aren't necessarily done in a sustainable fashion, so we would like to, I think there's several ideas that we've had. I think obviously there'd be donations to reforestation, potentially we could plant something for every person that comes here. Obviously no single-use plastic. I mean, there's a lot of ideas that we've got.
Yeah, I mean, like, waste is a key one that stands out with any festival. How, yeah, you can you suddenly get a large influx of people in one area, and then it's left kind of trampled and with a lot of waste to be left. The burden of the waste is just left at the site. So we're already exploring kind of zero waste business model, looking straight at like the supply chains and looking at, you know, how we can circularize our material usage, and so we'd like to kind of introduce that into a kind of festival model on a larger scale, things like that. And then there's also the community element. You have to really ensure that everyone is gaining from the large number of people that come here, like everyone.
Okay, so I've been staying at your hostel here, and I've seen that, you know, all the toilets are composting toilets, so you're going to be able to, you know, use that transformation to actually regenerate the land, or your water is being taken to grey water recycling through banana circles. So, you know, what have been your thoughts? You know, why have you gone that direction?
Yeah, I think the problem with the world, I think, really are these kind of linear movements of materials, right? You have people are producing, they're consuming and producing, and there aren't enough kind of cycles, closed loop systems, really. And so we're trying to look at all the different waste avenues, from human waste to rubbish to liquid, grey water and everything, and try and keep it in the loop, keep it on the land as long as possible. And that's something that we'd like to bring forward to scale up to perhaps a larger festival size in the future.
Yeah, I think something living this remote is, you sort of realise, I mean, we knew this before, but probably hadn't lived it, is nothing, you can't just throw something away. So everything we bring up here, you've got to do something with it. And an easy example is if we try not to use too much plastic, but if there's a bag of rice that's got plastic, we wash the plastic, dry it, and then it can be used to plant a tree in. So that's an example. We've been making bricks out of plastic, so old plastic bottles, stuff in the plastic in, it can be used, Nerf bricks, gardening, anything. So it's trying to find a use for all of anything, any sort of foreign objects that we bring here. Really.
I think we've got a couple of sort of ongoing projects that we don't necessarily know exactly what we're going to do with them yet, but so, like, for example, the bricks, where you shove the plastic into old plastic bottles, but also we're keeping all of our aluminium cans. We've got a big, like, old water tank that doesn't we can't use anymore, and we're sort of gradually filling that with crushed cans, and we hope to do like a cool project with those in the future.
Yeah, I mean, something that would be good to do with cans, is aluminium cans, is to smelt them, and then you can create some sort of, not byproduct, but something you can use again. I mean, that requires a lot of energy, and something I'd like to do down the line, maybe in 5 years or so.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, guys, it sounds like you're having a lot of fun. You know, a big transformation from being in London, those corporates, you know, and you expressed, you know, the fears of moving away from home, you know, the boredom of being in the corporate world, and now you've transformed your lives to be, you know, having a hostel business, regenerative, in a challenging environment, different languages, all the skill sets you've improved and learned, and the ones you're going to have to go, and the way you want to incorporate, you know, the local community. It's a great regenerative project, and we wish you lots of luck with your hostel here. What's the name of the hostel again?
La Pondarosa.
Fantastic, guys.
Thank
Thanks for us.
you.
Cheers.